So today we're going to be comparing two Sony lenses that are versatile zoom lenses for everyday use, landscape, as well as portraiture. The two lenses we're pitching today are the Sony 24-70mm F2.8 GMASTER and the Sony 24-70mm F4 Zeiss lens. We're going to see what the differences are between the lenses and whether the GMASTER is worth that extra cost. So talking about design on these two lenses, you'll notice immediately how much there is a difference in size. The Sony 24-70 F4 Zeiss is half the size of the 24-70mm F2.8. In addition to that as well, it also weighs almost half the weight. The Sony 24-70mm F4 weighs around 400 grams, whereas the Sony 24-70 F2.8 GMASTER weighs closer to 900 grams. Meaning that if you're going to carry around for a longer period of time, you'll thank your wrists by using the 24-70mm F4 as it is significantly lighter. So just comparing the two lenses in detail, the Sony 24-70 F4 Zeiss lens has a 62mm filter thread with a full metal construction. In addition, it also has optical image stabilization. Whereas the Sony 24-70mm F2.8 GMASTER is a combination between metal and it's got some rubberized elements on it for the rings. It does use a large 82mm filter thread, but it does not have optical image stabilization. So now we're going to dive into the optical design of both lenses, starting with the Sony 24-70mm F2.8 GMASTER. It's got a maximum aperture of f2.8 and a minimum aperture of f22, backed up with a 9 rounded blade aperture diaphragm for really nice smooth bokeh. It's got 3 spherical elements and 1 XA element to help with field curvature as well as coma, and it's got 1 extra low dispersion element and 1 super ED just to help out with chromatic aberrations as well as color fidelity. In addition, it does have a nano AR coating on its elements just to help out with surface reflections and glare. And now onto the Sony 24-70mm F4 Zeiss lens. It's got a maximum aperture of f4 and a minimum aperture of f22. It's backed up with a 7 rounded blade aperture diaphragm just for premium bokeh performance. It's got a Zeiss tessile-like construction for its structure with 5 spherical elements and 1 extra low dispersion element to help with chromatic aberrations as well as color fringing. It's coated with a Zeiss AR coating to also help with surface reflections and clarity. What both of these lenses have in common is that they're both dust and moisture resistant. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take both of these lenses onto the street to test out its usability as well as its image quality. Look, I left my PD sling at home, so I had to borrow one of our work's beloved low pro bum bags. It's not the classiest thing I've ever worn, but you know, it does the job. I've got my lens in there, we're ready to roll, let's go. All right, let's talk about this lens. So what I've got right now, the Sony 24-70mm F4 Zeiss. One of the most loved things about this lens is the form factor of the actual lens. It is really small and it doesn't weigh a lot either. So if you're going to be traveling or carrying it around for a long period of time, it's an ideal lens for that. And because of its form factor, it can fit into a lot of bag setups as well. So if you're traveling discreetly, it's not going to be too much of an issue of you carrying a big camera backpack just to bring your camera along as well as your other essentials. In terms of its autofocus performance, it does have a linear autofocus system inside and it does work quite well. It's not slow at all and it's quite fast and reliable. As I mentioned earlier, the positioning of the focus and the zoom ring being this close together is actually a bit annoying sometimes. Like when I'm shooting up with the camera against my face and I don't initially have my hand on the lens and I'm just trying to find the focus ring or trying to find the zoom ring, it does get a bit tedious. It's nothing too bad, but comparing that with the GMASTER experience where the rings are so separated and with most other lenses that I use as well, it's just another thing that I have to get used to in terms of its ergonomics. Moving on to the next lens, the 24-70mm GMASTER isn't as travel friendly. It does weigh close to a kilogram and it is quite long, so you will need some kind of dedicated bag just to keep it well protected and padded, and that would mean that you will need a bigger bag if you do want to carry your camera as well as your essentials. In saying that though, despite its weight, the user experience and the comfort of the lens is fantastic. The rubberized grips really help in terms of consistently and accurately getting what you need and just all-round comfort. And then you've got some other flicks and switches on it as well. So you've got the autofocus to manual focus switch, which is really useful for you to just quickly swap between autofocus and manual focus if you really need to, as opposed to going through the menus just to change that setting. Secondly as well, you do have a focus hold button on the lens that you can use as a function button to give you that extra functionality so you don't have to take the camera off your face to change a bit of settings. And lastly, before I forget, the 24-70 GMASTER does come with a lock switch, so you can lock the lens at 24mm so the lens doesn't zoom when you're moving around. So now we're going to test the lenses side by side in a similar shooting scenario, just to show you the quality of the corner sharpness, as well as just the overall image quality in each of the shots throughout the minimum to maximum aperture. I feel like we should use a tripod, like a tabletop one. Give me a sec. Look at this thing. It's the most brutal tabletop tripod I've ever seen. You know what I realized? Every time we do YouTube segments, I always get like the weirdest tripods. Change lens. So we just finished shooting the samples and let's see what it looks like on screen. So to do a lens comparison between the two lenses, we shot two sets of samples at 24mm and 70mm from their maximum to minimum apertures. Looking at the 24-70mm F4 Zeiss, you'll notice that the corners do get a bit soft, especially out wide, and they do get sharper as you zoom in. However, the photos were always sharp at the center of the frame. Whereas compare that to the Sony 24-70mm GMASTER, you have a consistent sharpness throughout the frame, and while shooting both lenses at f4, the Sony 24-70mm does have noticeably less vignetting compared to the 24-70 Zeiss, and all-round sharpness throughout its focal range as well as aperture range. Color rendition and image quality wise though, both lenses boast similar quality and look quite good. Overall sharpness throughout the imagery, the 24-70mm GMASTER definitely does take the cake in this regard. In terms of bokeh, comparing both lenses at f4 and 5.6, the GMASTER does have better looking bokeh balls and all-round sharpness, and especially when you have that extra flexibility to drop it down the stop to f2.8 just to give it that extra pop. However, in saying that, the 24-70 F4 Zeiss does have some pretty decent bokeh and you can get away with some good portraits with it. Overall, both of these lenses are quite good in image quality and optical sharpness, but the GMASTER definitely does outperform the F4 in a variety of aspects. So our final thoughts on our comparison of both of these lenses. So both 24-70s boast pretty good image quality and great optical build quality as well. Now, why would you go the GMASTER over the F4 Zeiss lens? So if you're a person who does professional photography, does events, and does a fair bit of landscaping, or just wants the best sharpness quality available from Sony for this focal length, then the GMASTER is the way to go. Although it is a lot heavier, the ergonomics do make up for it for the long run. Secondly, if you are looking to travel or be discreet with your camera system and not looking to add almost 1 extra kilogram of weight on front of your camera, then definitely go for the 24-70 F4 Zeiss, as it is a lot more compact, and with the Zeiss optics, you'll be pretty happy with the image quality throughout the focal length. Although yes, it does have some vignetting issues and a couple other softness features, you can fix those with a simple lens correction profile in post, or just do a bit more work in post-processing just to get it up to scratch. If you have any questions on either of these lenses or have another idea for a shootout, pop them in the comments below. Make sure to follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, and our blog for more written reviews and what's going on in store, and links to that are in our description below. And as always, if you enjoyed our video, hit the like button and the subscribe button so you don't miss out on our latest update as we upload videos weekly.